was ready to just drop this whole thing altogether. Throw in the towel and shut it down. When I tell you I was ready, baby, it's been 3 years and we still not at 1,000 subscribers, and you did that in 3 days with a shoebox. What? You just have to be really careful and remember like your purpose, right? Like don't get so caught up in what they doing and how fast and da-da-da. If you are a trendsetter in your content, in the beginning, it might take a little bit just because people not even hip to it yet. Like you way ahead. Yo, it's your girl Janine Saint-G, and today I wanted to talk with you about something that I experienced this week on this journey to a life of maximum fulfillment, and specifically going all in on my content creator dreams. So basically this week, I was ready to just drop this whole thing altogether. Like throw in the towel and shut it down. When I tell you I was ready, and like, it's normal to get discouraged when you're working towards your dreams or trying to build something or whatever the case might be. But in this whole process, this whole journey, I never considered just quitting this whole thing altogether. Like that was never an option or thought in my mind until this past week. And so the reason I wanted to talk with you about it is because even though I had never like gotten to this point before, I feel like it's probably a lot more common than we realize, but I feel like I don't ever see anyone talk about it. I feel like the only time we ever hear about someone being almost ready to quit on their dreams is after they've already made it and they can give you this inspirational story of triumph. But like for me, that always just felt so unrelatable, because it's like, well, of course you're gonna tell me to keep going because you already made it. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, yo, I wish I could just hear from someone who was actually in the same boat as me. So basically I wanted to give you a peek into my mind and sort of how I even got to the point of thinking like, yeah, maybe I really should just quit. Because if you're here, you probably have less than 1,000 subs too, and you might be thinking about quitting yourself. And I thought it might be helpful to hear from someone who's in the same boat, but still finding a way to keep going. All right, so let's get into it. So basically in 2021, I went all in on my content creator dreams. I had just finished a client contract. It was my last client for what was a very lucrative fitness coaching business. And I had known since 2017, when God gave me a very specific dreams with instructions that I was supposed to start a YouTube channel, that I was supposed to be doing YouTube. So in 2021, I finally said, okay, you know what? Let's do this. Client contract was done. I was honestly not feeling very fulfilled with fitness anymore. And I knew that I loved creating content, and specifically I really loved just connecting with my community and like people that were really resonating with what I was putting out there. So boom, we went all in. And since then, it's been, honestly, I wouldn't change the experience for anything, right? Like I wouldn't trade it for anything, because there's been a lot of ups and just a lot of things that have confirmed like, yeah, you on the right track. Like this is exactly where you're supposed to be, right? And then there have also been downs, which like I said, had me discouraged before, but never to the point of like, oh, I'm trying to quit. You know, it was just more so like, okay, we're gonna keep going. And I think it was like sometime this summer where it just started getting to a point where I felt like I wasn't growing fast enough to find the financial stability that I needed, right? Like I had gotten to the point where now we're 2 years in basically of going all in, and I'm just like, I just felt like I was missing the mark to actually like see a true financial situation to allow me to like keep going, right? So this past summer, I was like, all right, I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna really study and try to figure out how I can get more strategic about essentially like documenting my journey and telling this story in a way that will find the people that I know God wanted me to like reach through my content. So I did that, and I came back last October. And since then, I've definitely seen like way more growth than what I had been seeing, you know, 2 years prior. And it's not like I was blowing up overnight or anything, but what was really nice was that everyone that I feel like was finding me and subscribing were super aligned. Like the comments that people would leave and the things that they were saying were very much in line and sometimes word for word exact to what God had shown me in my dreams, right? But listen, this last week, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because, again, like I was seeing more growth, but in my mind, it's just not fast enough. Again, in my mind, like everything's happening as it should. But in my mind, it wasn't fast enough because, I mean, some of y'all already know that we in this landlord situation right now. So a lot of times I'm like looking at the progress and looking at the situation and being like, Lord, like how we gonna close this gap? You know what I'm saying? And this past week, I think it was just a combination of things that had happened. So first, this past Sunday, I had gotten home pretty late from a shoot that I had done, which I vlogged completely. So you'll be able to see that in a few weeks once I'm able to put it all together. But I came back from a shoot. It was my first like real acting role in a commercial, because if you've seen this video, so when it comes to the practical side, what am I doing for work? I think right now it's like really focusing on finding as many ways as I can to be in front of a camera, whether that's modeling, whether that's figuring out the acting. Obviously you can see I'm very intimidated by this acting thing. Then you know that one of the ways that I've been working to sort of fund this dream is by just submitting myself to like any on-screen type of work. So modeling, acting, things like that. And acting specifically is something that's very new to me. So the fact that I even had an acting role in a commercial and all this stuff, it was a really big deal. But I remember getting home, being exhausted because it was a 2-day shoot and it was long, right? It was very fun, but it was long. And I got home and I was just like, yo, this still isn't enough, you know? Like it was paid, like I was paid really well and everything. But when, again, looking at this whole landlord situation, like what I owe and everything that I need to kind of do to basically beat the case, I'm like, Lord, it's still not enough, you know? Which then I feel like started this whole spiral, because it's like, okay, the way that I'm looking to fund the dream isn't fully funding the dream just yet. And then I'm looking at my rate of growth and I'm like, Lord, that also ain't funding the dream just yet. So I think I really got stuck in the how am I going to do this? Right. And then, like I said, we started spiraling. So then I'm also seeing all these creators talking about how they're quitting because they're bored, or I don't know, whatever. It's not what it was all cracked up to be. And then on the flip side, I'm seeing creators that are growing like 1,000 followers or 1,000 subscribers in 3 days. And like, I'm looking at them, I'm like, baby, you posted a box of sneakers, like, and showing us the sneakers that you got. And you're not even in the video. It's literally just a box of sneakers. You opened it and like, oh, look, the sneakers I got. And I'm like, what? Baby, it's been 3 years and we still not at 1,000 subscribers, and you did that in 3 days with a shoebox. So it just got me, I mean, like on top of the fact that I was exhausted, all of those thoughts, thinking about how I was gonna close this gap on this landlord situation, like I was so overwhelmed. And for the first time in forever, I literally went to sleep crying because I was like, wow, I think maybe I should just quit. Like maybe that's actually what I'm supposed to do, right? And I think one, just being overwhelmed made me cry myself to sleep. But I think also, like I said, I never got to the point of being like, oh, I'm gonna just quit. So even the fact that I was entertaining that idea, I think it was like so sad, disappointing, and scary for me that I literally just cried myself to sleep on Sunday. So wake up the next day, now I'm in my feels, right? Like I'm in a funk, because the thing that I feel most called to do, the only thing that actually feels like it has real meaning for me in my life right now, I'm thinking about just throwing in the towel. And I don't know what's coming next, but I just feel like, what's the point of this? You know what I'm saying? If like nothing is really happening. So the next day I was just like wallowing, you know, and off and on crying throughout the day. I called my mom and she was like, well, don't quit yet. Like, keep your head together. And that was nice to hear, especially like coming from like immigrant parents. My parents are Haitian. So for them, it's doctor, lawyer, engineer. So the fact that my mom was like, no, like, like keep going. Like this happens sometimes, but keep going. And she also was like, I think for her, hearing me talking about quitting was like, because she's literally, this has never been a thing. So anyway, that night, it was Monday. I said, you know what? Even if I have to cry myself to sleep again, tonight, I'm going to make sure I go to sleep early because also, sleep deprivation will like mess up with your mind. So I went to sleep. Next day, let me say, first of all, sleep is a miracle. Because I woke up and even though I was still having those thoughts of like, I just don't get it. Like, I'm like really putting my full self into this. Like I have like a very specific vision and I know that it like when people find it, they see what it is, right? And they feel what it is. Because ultimately, the reason why I want to document my journey and why I'm meant to document this journey is so that you can feel encouraged in doing what it is that you're meant to do in this world. So for me, I'm like, I have this big purpose with it and like there's meaning behind it. It's not just like me just out here to flex or out here to like just random content. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking about all of that, right? But luckily I had some sleep in the bank. So what I realized, like as I was going over everything and just thinking about it was, maybe it's not so much that like, oh, this person grew so fast because they posted in a shoebox, right? Like maybe the real problem is you're forgetting about your whole purpose with this content, right? It's like I was getting so caught up in the growth, in the rate of growth, that I was forgetting the whole point of like why I was doing this. It's not just so that I can make money, you know what I'm saying? Like land in my financial abundance and like all of that. Of course, that's important because like, how am I going to survive? You know what I'm saying? But the actual core and point of the content isn't necessarily that. That's supposed to be the byproduct so that I can continue in doing what it is I'm supposed to be doing with this content. And once I like made that switch, like once I realized that like, oh no, you're looking at it wrong, that's what allowed me to be like, okay, now, first of all, calm down. No one's about to quit. Like, you got to keep going. Like, you don't need to be caught up in what other people are doing or how fast they're growing from, posting a shoebox. You need to remember your reason for doing content in the first place, right? And one of the reasons I feel like I already kind of expressed to you, like even the point of me making this video is so that we have sort of like a log of what it was like on the way to making it, achieving the dream and all of that, right? Because like I said, a lot of times we see all the people that we look up to and that we love and that we draw so much inspiration from, but we see them after they made it. But like, what would it have been like if we could see what it was like for Issa Rae when she was still creating Awkward Black Girl, or even before that, when she knew she had a vision for these type of things, right? Like just getting into her mind at that time in real time, as opposed to in retrospect. Because anytime someone tells you a story in retrospect, it's a very different, the energy behind it, the experience that's being added to that story is so different from what it actually was like in the moment. And I feel like that in the moment aspect is, to me, even more valuable because I can really look at it and be like, wow, this person really is in my shoes. I can actually directly apply what they're saying to my situation right now in real time too, because we're in the same situation. And not only that, but like we're in it together. And it's not like they're here and it's like they're here and I'm here, So that's one reason. The other reason was because part of why God like put this on my heart so heavy was because I'm documenting this journey to show you the way that God really be coming through when you decide to step fully into the unknown and really walk in your purpose and go after the thing that you have such a big vision for and that God probably put real heavy on your heart. Because I think that a lot of times society makes it feel like, oh, well, that's unrealistic. You can't be, that's too much. You need to focus on how you gonna eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think sometimes that starts to like make it feel so unattainable that we forget that, nah, God's running the show. So, and to add on to that, like I said, God gave me this dream in 2017, but it took me 4 years to start. In that 4 years, so much had happened where God really had like taken me from coming back to New York in 2017 and couch surfing for a year to like having my own apartment, living alone in New York City, like just so many things that I would have never known were possible if I had never just like taken the leap, right? And followed when I really felt God was calling me to come back to New York back in 2017. The problem is I didn't document all of that. You know what I'm saying? Because I was so intimidated by YouTube at the time that I couldn't even fathom. When I got the dream, I was like, Lord, I don't know how you want me to do this. I don't have no skills. I don't have no camera. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do nothing, you know? And so I was too intimidated to show you just the way that like God really moved in my life. But at the time when I was telling people the way things were like coming together, people literally didn't believe me because they were like, how is this possible? And I was like, God, you know? And so that's why now, like me documenting this journey now, me being even in this landlord situation now, it's like I remembered and realized like God really gave me another chance to show you the miracle. And so that day when I wasn't sleep deprived, I remembered like, oh no, the growth is going to come, right? This type of content, something that I've realized in this process is that there's probably going to be 2 waves of growth for me, right? The initial wave will be kind of like what we're seeing right now, even if it's slow. It's going to be people that, like me, had always been looking for this specific type of content, what it's like in real time as you're moving towards your dream. And then the second wave is going to be people that have found me after we done blown up. But the difference is they're going to have a log. So that's the other thing I have to remind myself. Like I'm creating a log so that, yeah, when I do make it, people not going to just have the stories that I can tell in retrospect. They're going to be able to actually see the living hard proof of like what it really was like dealing with this landlord, dealing with the possibility of eviction, really following what God is saying, like paying attention to the signs, trying out new career paths, like specifically with acting and things like that, things I never thought I was like capable of or that I could ever do. They're going to be able to see all of that. And the point of it, like I said, is so that one, people don't feel alone when they're thinking about like, okay, I really want to make this leap, but I don't know anyone else that's doing it, right? Like, no, you got me, we in it together. And then also they'll really start to see like, this is how she approached her relationship with God. This is how she was able to discern or receive messages, insight, signs to know how to move and what to do and like how to approach it. And also this is how she kind of kept her mental together as she was in spaces of a lot of uncertainty, because those are all things that are really important. And I think constantly come up once you decide to like take a leap and really answer the call that God has on your life. So basically I realized all that and decided, you know what, we not gonna quit. I never want to get to that point ever again, because it was just, honestly, it was unnecessary, because look at where I'm at now, we doing this video. Yeah, I wanted you to have this because I want you to be able to see my process and know this for yours. One, if growth is slow in the beginning, just keep in mind that it takes a lot of experimenting. Like I said, I took a whole break. I've taken many breaks, but this summer I took a really pivotal break. But coming back, I finally started to see more growth than what I was seeing before, right? So just giving yourself that time and that grace. And it's frustrating, I get it, especially if you are as crazy as me and decide to go all in. So you also have like finances attached to it. But it's just to say that like sometimes some of us just have such big purposes around our content that like, I don't know how to say it. It sounds weird because you're like, oh, well, if it's so big, why isn't it growing quickly? But it's one of those things that sometimes it just takes a while to catch on. One of my favorite content creators, I don't have that many. I'm gonna be honest, I don't have that many. But one of my favorite is Heinz, which if you're here, you probably have seen his content. But one of the things that he said, right, and I love it because he has somewhat of a log. You can see things from like way before, and you can see how he was experimenting and where he sort of like found his lane. But he talked about how his first video that caught on, right? Because we all know it takes one video that people find, and then, you know, from there, it's like a domino effect. He said that the video that people found, he had made like way before, like maybe a year or even more before they found it. And then that's what created the cascade of growth for him. And he said what he realized was that he was just early, right? Like, I think he was talking about his celibacy journey. And I guess when people found it, that was like a trending topic or something. But that was like a year, 2 years later. He was just early to it. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times too, like if you are a trendsetter in your content, in the beginning, it might take a little bit just because people not even hip to it yet. Like you way ahead, you know what I'm saying? You on another level, and other people, like the rest of the collective is still waking up to the level that you're at. You know what I'm saying? So you got to keep that in mind. The other thing is that comparison is a thief of joy. We know this already. I don't want to be trite because it's natural. You're a human being. It's normal that if you're working to build something or to create something, it's natural that you will look to see other people or find other people that have already done it, right? To see what you can learn and like what you can apply to your own situation. But what I'm realizing is like, even when you're doing that homework, that research, you just have to be really careful and mindful and remember like your purpose, right? Like don't get so caught up in what they doing and how fast and like maybe don't equate your rate of growth to their rate of growth and their content versus your content. Just, you know, look at it and see, can you learn things about strategy? Like, can you learn more technical things that you can apply to what you have going? Because at the end of the day, even despite everything that I'll say about like, oh my gosh, I'm growing so slow, whatever, or it feels like I'm growing so slow. What I realize is that when people do land on it, it's exactly what God said it would be like. Like it's the reaction that God told me the people that are meant to find my content would have. And people are grateful for it. People are like, wow, like I never seen nothing like this before. You know what I'm saying? And it's what they needed, right? And I know that is what they need because I know that it's what I've needed, like forever. I've always been looking for this. So I was like, you know what, F it, let me just make it myself. And I'm saying all this to say that the thing that you were created to do is so important for you to do because only you can do it. Like there's a way that you would do it and only you can do it that way. And literally people need that exact thing. So I hope that like seeing me kind of go through all the emotions that I went through this week and the findings that I've kind of like settled into, I hope that it will convince you to consider not giving up just yet. And if you have been feeling this way, or if you have stories about how you've overcome this, definitely leave it in the comments, because when other people in our community like find this video, I want them to be able to see from multiple stories. Because you know, sometimes you hear someone's story and you're like, okay, but that was just you. But then you hear from a whole bunch of other different people and they're kind of saying the same thing. I feel like it gives you a little more oomph to be like, you know, all right, fine. Let me just keep going or whatever. All right, so now that I've officially talked your ear off, I think you get the point. The point is, we not giving up, we in this, okay? And yeah, so I'm gonna let you go now. I love you. I'll see you in the next video. And yes, it's gonna be a vlog, so stay tuned for that. All right, for real this time. Bye.